Okay, this is The Between Shadow Society, Season 2, Part 4?
Four.
4? Okay, good.
Oh,
Let's do a recap. You currently have 2 active threats. Last time you resolved one of your threats, the St. Petersburg Mirror. There are still 2 active threats, the Demon of Kilburn Abbey and Sally No Face. The Demon of Kilburn Abbey is actually ready to go. I believe you all solved the first question. So you're now entitled to resolve the threat by using innocence or piety as a bait and then performing a banishing ritual, which we described the ritual last time. The orphan attempted to do this last week, but was waylaid by a very, very insistent young man and eventually ran into a lion and it didn't all work out. Also, it didn't help that the legacy decided to stay home. So those were
Not by choice.
those were some things going on. But it is ready to go though. So the next night phase, if anybody wants to tackle that, they certainly can. We have Sally No Face. You've made no progress on Sally No Face, but you have been contacted by this boy who, out of character, I think we all know is connected to Sally No Face, but in character, we don't necessarily know that. What your character knows, what some knows, is that the boy works for someone who's doing a major art exhibit. And they have invited some with this little cream-colored, gold-lettered card with an address on it. And that's it for threats. That's all that's going on. You currently have 5 mastermind clues. I will let you know that that means I can change a threat into a servant of the mastermind anytime I wish. So bear that in mind as well when you're thinking about when and how to tackle things. Taking a look at the hunters. Conditions are Miss Blakely has none. Mr. Graves has a bullet melted into hand and also marked by Lord Cadwallader. We can talk about that Lord Cadwallader thing because I wonder if that's still active now that that threat is resolved. I think it might be. I don't know. We'll see. He might be like a bit of like vestigial hangover.
Out
right?
for revenge of some kind. Or
Yeah, exactly. Well, and also Lady Cadwallader might show up at some point again too. Some, as always, has a disappointment and a horror, and Ms. Everly Gray has tightened rope. Oh, that's related to the Demon of Kilburn Abbey. Yeah, I remember that. Any other reminders or things we need to talk about before we go? Okay. In that case, I was told off mic that someone wants to request a scene really early in the morning of the first day phase, so we will do that. But first, I'm going to just introduce the new threat. The new threat is another classic. It's a week of classic threats today with the Whateley Camera. The Hargrave House library contains research on the so-called Whateley Camera, one of the first wet plate type cameras ever produced. People who are photographed by the camera have been known to disappear without a trace. An American scientist and philosopher, Atticus Whateley, studied the camera for a number of years and proposed that it was some sort of entity, a demon or even a god, and that the people who went missing had been transported to another dimension. Whateley advanced an idea called the fragrant void, a sort of proto-Earth that existed in near total darkness and that was home to powerful entities who were banished by God on the first day of creation. He believed that some of those entities could still operate in our world, hidden from view, perhaps through common objects like the camera. He believed some of those entities, while his research couldn't prove the existence of the fragrant void, he did manage to show how the camera caused people to be whisked away to another dimension. Unfortunately, before he could present his work for review, he was killed, his notes were destroyed, and the camera went missing. So that's the backdrop of the Whateley Camera. 1 week ago, a beautiful actress, Penelope Levy, disappeared. She was last seen at the Society Obscura, an exclusive and secretive club for wealthy photography enthusiasts, located in a converted townhouse in Kensington. Now, a missing actress wouldn't merit much attention from Hargrave House if not for the fact that her lover, Bert Broadswell, sent the hunters one of the pictures taken of her at the Society Obscura. Who among you has the cosmic passage marked? Is that just Miss Blakely? Miss Blakely. Something unusual about the photo unmistakably confirms it was taken with the Whateley camera. What is it?
When you look into the shadows of the picture, every light source will cast a shadow, and of course, you have to take a good picture. You have to have light sources, and if you look into the shadows on the photograph, is it called a photograph? On the picture, you can see, if you look very, very closely, you can see the outlines of a different world, shapes that resemble trees, but not trees to be found around London. Things like clouds, but weird. But you have to look closely. It's very easy to miss.
Fantastic. And so therein lies Hargrave House's actual interest in this case. The missing actress is just a part of that. But the Whateley camera is an object of power, and it might be in London. Now, your questions and opportunities, there's just one question, but it opens two opportunities. The question is, what circumstances will cause someone photographed by the camera to disappear? It is a complexity 8. The two opportunities are resolve the threat by reversing the process and bringing Penelope Levy back to this world, or use the camera to transport yourself to the fragrant void and make contact with the entity there. If you take that route, you get access to a new move called Void Walker. So that is the Whateley camera. I will update the threat sheet on the first break, or if anybody wants to do it while they're just hanging
I already
around.
did it. I have like a shortcut to all the original
Okay,
threats
good.
to paste in because I don't like to do it.
I love it. Thank you. There is no aspect of the Janus mask here, incidentally. From a design standpoint, if anyone's curious, that's because this is a truly otherworldly phenomenon, and therefore the powers of this world have no effect on it. And so, the day phase. I know that Miss Everly Gray wants a scene, so just tell us about that now, Miss Everly Gray.
Yes. She's still feeling the tightened rope, and her conversation with Admiral Flagg didn't help any. And so she's setting up to wake up very early. I mean, dawn hasn't even broken, and she is going to be doing practice, this time with bows and arrows. And I imagine that Graves is probably feeling the bullet in his palm. If it wasn't burning or doing something weird before, it's probably doing something now. And, you know, she's got some tools that she could probably help with digging that out. So
I think Graves is also interested in talking to her because he was so bound up with the other threat, but he's very keen to get involved in Kilburn Abbey, given that it seems to fall into his area of expertise.
So we're having the scene between the two of them?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's have it. Take it away.
Okay. So again, dawn hasn't broken. She's restless, and Graves, if you made your way to the upper gallery, you can start hearing the slapping footfalls of bare feet on the wood of the gallery, as she's taking running passes and using a bow and doing arrows, stringing arrows against the targets. And when you come into the gallery, she's busy trying to hit all the targets from different angles, from different positions, and she's only wearing a dressing gown. I mean, that's how how bothered she is. She didn't even bother to get dressed. I mean, like, the most that she has is the dressing gown and a different set of knife gloves, which you don't really know about yet.
I think, yeah, Graves just kind of cautiously rounds the corner of the gallery and says, Miss Evelyn Gray, if you're not too busy, I was wondering if I might have a word with you.
Couldn't sleep either, Graves. She pauses in her mid-stringing of a bow and comes over to you. It's actually fortuitous that you've come. I might have something that I need your help with as well. And then she shows you to a bench off to the side, where you two can sit. What what may I ask is on your mind, and I'll let you know about mine.
Well, I've been so preoccupied with this business with the mirror, but I'm fascinated to hear more about your progress with this business at Kilburn Abbey.
Progress? Not much, if anything. Sam and I were waylaid by the demon yesterday at the rabbi's synagogue. And this is where she starts to put her hand on the back of her neck. He says there's no signs, there's no marks back there, but I feel something. And she will turn to show you, like the back of her neck. I mean, she pulls down the back of her dressing gown to show you. It's like, do you see anything?
Curious. Let me take a look. I think Graves puts his hands on her shoulders and starts to try and see if there's anything not obvious to the conventional sight that might be there.
She feels the probably the impression of the bullet in your palm, and then pulls that off her shoulder. What is this? What happened here?
That's another matter I wanted to talk to you about. I understand you may have some skill with field medicine, as it were, and well, I ended up catching a bullet from Miss Blakely, and it left me with this.
Impressive bit of magic there. And then if you're astride the bench, then she'll kind of like sidle so she's sitting on the bench properly, and then she'll actually like look at your hand and actually whip out a tiny knife from the glove and then start to kind of press at the wound. In the meantime, if you still have one hand on her, it's like, she'll be asking, while I'm doing this, do you feel anything? Is there anything there?
An impression, as if something is marked you. Something not entirely of this world.
Can you get rid of it?
I think so.
And then she'll ask you, this might be either painful or bloody. Do you mind watching? I can turn if you'd rather not. As she's poking around on your palm.
Feels like a good cut. I like it. Think of your bonus, which one you want. Is Everly Gray? If it's a question, I'd probably let Rob know now. And otherwise, you can find a clue.
Question, yep.
Okay, think on that, Rob. And Some and Miss Blakely, neither of you. I know you were looking for scenes together, but neither of you actually have conditions to clear. So you could just go do something together, I suppose, if you want. But what do you want to do? Some?
Well, I think that I want to follow up on this note card that I got from the boy. I don't know. Amanda, do you think that Blakely would know about this and be interested in going?
What does the card say again specifically? I've forgotten.
It's an address.
Does the card look,
It's beautiful.
does it look like it was expensive?
Yes, the card is very, it's like very expensive stationery, like done with foil lettering. If you look into the address though, it's just like a dingy warehouse in East London.
I think you might just catch some like going out the door, like holding this note card very delicately in his hand. Like if you want to.
Yeah. Blakely is just going to, the glint of gold catches in the sunlight and that catches her eyes. You, creature, Stum, where are you going with that? What is that thing?
Me?
Yes, you.
It's my card.
Card
Someone
for what?
gave it to me. I haven't the foggiest. There was a young man, nicely dressed. He gave it to me. I thought I might spend the day seeing what it was all about.
She takes the card, doesn't even ask. Kind of holds it out, looks at it. Are you sure this was for you?
There was no one else around, and he seemed quite insistent that I take it.
Well, looking at the quality of this card, I think it would actually probably be for me, but you're welcome to accompany me as a bodyguard.
Very well then. Shall I attempt to call a cab?
Perhaps let me do that.
As you say. Would you mind if I held on to the card?
Well, I suppose if you must, but don't lose it.
And he tries to delicately take it from you, but I think his fingers just barely touch yours.
I think Blakely actually kind of shivers a bit, feeling this. I don't actually know. What does Sum's skin feel like?
It feels like cold rubber.
Oh, that's a horrible description. Okay. Yeah, Blakely definitely shivers a little bit and snatches her hand back. Ugh.
If you didn't already have a horror and a disappointment, I would give you a condition right now, but you do. So. Very good. I love it. That's great. Let's just fast forward to that. You are in this. You're basically in like a. There's like you're kind of like near some docks. There's lots of like warehouses and things, and this address is this like particular warehouse. And I will tell you some that you see the boy hanging around out front. Now, you weren't supposed to be here until tonight, so you're early. But you see the boy. He is dressed in a sort of a very like beautifully tailored navy and forest green tartan coat with a matching hat and he's hanging around playing like dice games with a bunch of like much bigger, rougher, older men. What do you do?
I point him out to Blakely. See there, that's the well-dressed young man that gave me that card.
Wow, your interpretation was right. He is very well dressed.
His
Kudos.
companions do not seem to be.
No, I believe you are correct. I am finding myself intrigued by this whole situation.
Fancy a game of dice with them?
I certainly do not, but you are welcome to slum if you wish.
I believe I shall, ma'am, as long as you aren't needing bodyguarding.
Oh, I'm sure for now I can take care of myself, but if I do need your help, I'm sure you will come straight away. I am sure of it.
Very good, then. Tries to smile and then walks over to the crowd.
The boy turns. Are you visible as well, Miss Blakely, or have you kind of gone off somewhere else?
I think just kind of, I think visible, standing in the background, looking around.
Okay, good. All right. The boy will turn and he will see you, son. He will say, "Good sir, you are," he looks at a non-existent pocket watch or something and says, "A few hours early. Nevertheless, I admire your enthusiasm." And then he looks at these men and he says, "Look here, boys. Here's someone who makes you all look like a gentleman." And he says, and he kind of looks over your shoulder and says, "And who is that vision over there?"
That is a certain woman I am charged with protecting.
He pushes past you completely. "Madam, madam."
Goodness, child, where are your manners?
"Madam, I am certain I am not the first person to tell you this today, perhaps, and certainly not ever, but you are a vision, a radiance. You and me, though certainly to a lesser degree, stand out in this muck and mire. We elevate this place, do we not?"
Well, I certainly do. You're what, 4?
I am approaching 15, though from the wrong direction. So, and he goes up to you and he says, he puts his hands on your hand and he says, "Madam, a private tour of my employer's exhibition."
I will take you up on this tour, as long as my bodyguard is welcome to join us.
Oh yes, oh yes. The contrast is incredible. The juxtaposition, the stunningly beautiful, the tragically ugly. It is, well, within that space is where art is formed, is it not?
I suppose, child. Whatever you
Very well.
say.
And he
No,
marches
you are
back over.
you are quite right. I have noticed this in my readings. Like pull out that poetry, that book of
Yes,
poetry.
yes.
Child, I expect you to behave properly to my bodyguard.
Madam,
Do you understand?
I am the very...
Disrespecting him is disrespecting me. Do you understand?
Yes, I do. I can't wait for you all to meet my employer. Please, this way. And he turns and goes to the entrance of the warehouse.
Blakely doesn't even wait for Sam. She just walks in. She just likes to put kids in their place.
The men playing dice, they just like look over at the boy and this whole situation and they just roll their eyes, go back to playing dice.
I'm gonna linger here for a moment and see if they know anything about what's going in before I catch up.
We'll come back to it. All right, let's go back to the scene. Graves, what's your question?
Because he's examining this mark on Miss Everly Gray's back, this indication of the rope, he notices something else as well. Your arm, Miss Everly Gray. I see something there too. Something that wouldn't be apparent to most people's eyes.
That is, of course, the hand that is the arm with the hand that is holding the knife that is digging out the bullet from your palm, and she makes a very pointed note to dig in just a little bit more on that as she flicks the bullet out of your palm. And there's a little bit of blood that comes out, and of course she takes a little surreptitious lick of your blood. But as she does so, her face changes, and there's a bit of a stricken look on her face. Maybe you would understand after all. Mayhap. We need to take comfort where we can and help each other to dispel the darkness for a little while.
Indeed, Artemis, may I call you that? And he makes no move to take his hand away. He's not repulsed by that.
She keeps hold of your hand and pulls you in to bring her forehead to yours.
I want to interrupt momentarily because I think this is important. Graves, this behavior by Miss Everly Gray, particularly licking the wound, does it feel tender and peaceful, or does it feel aggressive?
I think a mixture of both, and that's why Graves is interested.
Pick one.
Aggressive, but in an enticing way. So yeah.
Ms. Everly Gray put an X on the hunt. So the question.
Would it be too forward for me to ask what this is on your arm? Do you know?
Unfortunately, I do, Crawford. Let's just say at the moment that it is a judgment passed down from generation to generation. And it is... My family has been blessed for many years, but this carries a curse.
Yes, well, a cursed heritage is something I can certainly relate to.
I think we understand each other all too well. And if he's looking like he's okay with it, she will move her face a lot closer to yours and then pull you in for a kiss.
Right. That feels like a cut. I assume some conditions got cleared during that. Tightened rope and the bullet, I suppose.
Yeah, that seems right, I think.
Let's cut back over to the warehouse. So, Sam, as you are dicing with these men, how can you tell they are made uncomfortable by your appearance?
None of them will look directly at me. Even when they're like handing me the dice to roll, they don't look.
And so what are you doing? What's your approach? What do you say?
Gentlemen, it is just frightfully pleasant of you to let me dice with you this morning. Tell me, do you know anything about that well-dressed young man and his employer?
I think it's going to be the information move. I think it's going to be with presence. I'm going to put you at disadvantage because of a disappointment and a horror, but go ahead and roll. You're muted.
What did you say the modifier was?
Presence.
That didn't help.
And disadvantage.
6.
6. I think there's something you don't understand about the game they're playing, and you make a mistake. And they interpret the mistake as cheating. And they will draw weapons on you. You can avoid this, or we can play it out.
I think I'm all right playing it out. Let's see what
Okay.
happens.
We'll come back to it. Meanwhile, the Dapper Boy has led you into a dark hallway, but once you, as almost practically as soon as you enter this hallway, which enters directly from the street, you hear music, a string quartet playing something very vibrant, very uplifting, very beautiful, very beautifully done too, very playing. And the Dapper Boy says to you, there's just a little bit of light coming from wherever that music's coming from. It's otherwise a very dim and dark space. He says, there are, of course, no guests here as of yet, but the exhibit never sleeps, madam. And so it's a perfect opportunity for you to have a private tour. I think you're going to be most enchanted and beguiled by my employer's work. And I know that my employer will be very, very interested in meeting you. He takes you to the threshold that goes into the main area of the exhibit and sweeps his hand toward the entrance and bows.
Child, you are entirely over the top. And yes, I understand the hypocrisy here. Child, you are entirely over the top. What, pray tell, is the sort of exhibition that your employer is trying to put on here? What
Madam,
sort of...
You are but mere steps away from discovering the answer yourself.
And she steps across the threshold. She swans across the threshold.
Indeed. How are you dressed right now?
Oh, goodness. Ridiculous ostrich feather cape. It's not ridiculous. It's just only Blakely can pull that off. I think she's got really big hair today with lots of flowers and gemstones in it. And I feel like a dress with a long train, completely and utterly useless walking around London, but looks great.
Indeed. You go inside. And inside is really something. It is very moodily lit. There are lots of candles. There's even a chandelier hanging in this warehouse. It's like you've walked into a beautiful evening drinks party, if not for the fact that there are in the corners stacks of crates and things, right? But as you're walking around, you will notice that there are mannequins all over the place. And the mannequins have been dressed in finery and carefully arranged all over as if they're talking to each other. And some of them are posed as if they're laughing. They're all wearing beautiful clothing. And some of them have remarkably human-looking faces, frozen, staring at you. The flesh, the nose, the lips, all quite real, but the eyes, totally dead. The faces have been carefully stitched onto the mannequins. How does that make you feel?
A little unsettled. Blakely has heard of the urban legend of Sally No Face. Everybody around
Everyone's
has.
heard it, yeah.
And she knows there was some sort of commotion with some people dying. She wasn't really paying attention to any of that. And that's sort of kind of sitting uncomfortably in the back of her mind. But it does look very nice. There's a lot of interesting aesthetics here with the finery and the beautiful faces, even though they're unsettling, it's still very beautiful.
Take the condition dark intrigue.
Dark intrigue. That's a good condition.
And I'll just end this moment by saying that the music is coming from a string quartet playing furiously, ceaselessly. Each of their faces is wrapped with bandages seeping with blood. And their fingers are also wrapped with bandages. They appear to not be allowed to stop playing. We should come back to this moment. I want to check in with Miss Everly Gray and Mr. Graves. You have the rest of the day. I'll give you each a thing to go do. What would you like to go do? We'll start with Miss Everly Gray.
I think we see Graves and Everly Gray reclining in her room. A cloud of smoke comes from Graves' mouth.
Filthy habit.
Ah,
The only
yes.
thing covering us is my dressing gown, by the way.
I can only apologize, but now this business with I feel we must return to the business with Kilburn Abbey.
I don't, at least not right now, not during the day. I think the demon is a little too smart for that. It showed itself at the synagogue, but it's probably getting ready to lie in wait for the nighttime. I think we need to look into one of these other issues that's going to happen, or has happened, unfortunately. Didn't you say that one of the people with a missing face, wasn't she your landlady at one point?
Sorry,
That's right. When I first came down to London, I stayed there for a short time. I don't know how well, but
Her body is still quite fresh, too.
it's a curious coincidence. Do you think we should follow up on that?
I think we should, just because, well, I mean, you know the lay of the land better than I, and it would be interesting to see your old stomping grounds.
Well,
I like it. So we'll fast forward to, sounds like you're going to the tenement house that Clara Yarborough is the owner of and that Mr. Graves used to have a room at. Let's talk about that. So it is 3 stories. There are, even in the day, beggars and sex workers all about. It's very poorly lit. I paint the scene, everyone. This building was originally a charity project, now abandoned for some wealthy do-gooder. What faded remnants of their largesse do we see all around?
Quite literally, a faded remnant. There is a portrait of said wealthy do-gooder. It's very faded, and the paint is peeling. The frame, the paint on the frame is kind of flaked in all these different places. But it was a person that had a portrait of themselves commissioned to hang in this charity so that people would know to whom they are indebted.
And this is in Whitechapel too, by the way. You're actually very close to the other hunters. You all are not too far from each other. So.
on the outside of the building, there's kind of, in the brickwork, there's a stone set, and it has a carving of a Bible verse, but it's taken some wear and tear over the years, and it's pretty much illegible now.
You can see on the interior, it's strips of, not full on, because they're not going to do full on wallpaper in this place, but you can see strips in different places of this patterned, textured wallpaper, kind of like as accents rather than the full on wall coverings, as a sign of they wanted to make it nice, but not too nice.
I think they had in one of the coat closets, they had like extra footman uniforms so that folks could they could hire people just on the spot for a day's work and dress them properly. But it's all like stuffed with mothballs that have become ineffective, and everything is a little bit moth-eaten and dusty.
Now, Clara Yarborough has her specific rooms, which you will actually have access to. The police have already removed the body, and because of the nature of the victim and the location of the victim, they are not doing the best job imaginable keeping the scene secure. And it has been a couple days, to be fair, in their defense. So you'll know the way easily. Mr. Graves, do you go straight to Clara Yarborough's flat, or do you go elsewhere?
Yeah, I think we go straight there. See if there's anything to be seen at the scene of the crime.
When you go into the flat, you see stacks of other people's washing. She was a washerwoman as well. That same peeling wallpaper. There's quite a strong mildew smell. Paint the scene, everyone. Clara Yarborough didn't have much, but she kept a few small, pretty things. What are they?
A little vase, no water in it, but some dried flowers given to her from some suitor in the past, I'm sure. But they're very well taken care of. It sits on one of the counters.
There's a little carving next to it, in a, not fine wood, but I mean it is finely carved. So it is a little carving of a bird. Looks like it's in the shape of a crow.
There's a framed picture of a man in a military uniform, possibly a relation or a acquaintance. It's not clear, but it looks like they're in a kind of dusty desert environment, so probably somewhere out in the Empire.
In advance payment for, well, I guess in payment for services rendered and future services, there is a small lacquered box hidden away, and inside of the lacquered box is a necklace with a delicate, small but immaculate sapphire.
So we'll come back to this scene. The men pull out knives, and one of them has like just a big rusty looking piece of pipe work. There are about, let's say there's like 4 of them, and they've accused you of cheating, and there's one thing they do to cheaters around here, and they are gonna at the very least beat you up pretty badly. What are you going to do in response?
I think I'll make some attempt at protest, but if they're attacking me, I'll fight back.
Yeah, let's do a day move. What are you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
I'm afraid that they'll discover that I'm not something that can be like killed or
yeah,
something.
I have the feeling their employer will be very intrigued indeed by you,
Wow.
based off what we know already about the employer. Let's go ahead and have that roll. It's going to be with vitality, and you will get the benefit of Caliban's fury as well. So,
Okay. So 8.
okay. You are going to, you're going to succeed at the fight. You will be able to defend them off. I'm going to give you a condition. I think in the fight, you managed to keep it hidden, but they managed to knock your arm loose. And so you have like a dangling arm under your coat. So take that condition, but go ahead and otherwise describe how you defend yourself.
Yeah, so I think I'm trying to talk to them. I'm like, look here, it was an honest mistake. I'll pay the difference, and it won't be a problem, and I'll be upon my way. And that's when one of them kind of comes up beside me and hits my arm with a rusted pipe, and it just goes hunk, and it starts to actually like shift out of the sleeve a bit of a ways, and I grab it, and I turn and look at that one, and he just stands there for a sec, and I grab his pipe, and he doesn't let go of the pipe, and I swing him into the other 3, and they all go tumbling. And as like the 4 of them try to stand up, like one of them like tries to pull a knife or something, like he's gonna do something, as the other 3 are like backing away, and I just beam the one with the knife with the pipe, and it like breaks his hand, and he drops the knife and goes scampering after them.
And you hear from the doorway of the warehouse, "Magnificent, good sir. Incredible. A tremendous display of martial prowess. I am most impressed." Meanwhile, back in the exhibit, you see the bandage-faced string quartet, the mannequins, the faces attached to some mannequins, the beautiful clothing. It is very beautiful clothing, very like expensive, very of the moment. There's even people dressed up as footmen or mannequins dressed up as footmen holding trays with drinks. What do you do?
I think Blakely looks at this string quartet for a long time, then turns towards one of the nearest mannequins with a really lifelike face and steps up very, very close to it, reaching a finger out to touch the face to see what it is made out of. She knows what it's made out of.
I like this as the night move for holding steady. It's a night move because of the environment. What are you afraid is going to happen if you lose your nerve?
Blakely's afraid she's going to get caught. Amanda's afraid she's going to get her face cut off. But Blakely is afraid
that's
she's
actually
gonna get
what's
caught.
Worse. Yeah.
Yeah.
Your face will end up on a mannequin.
Yeah.
I love it. That's great. I'm going to make you scar your reflection as well, because you've gone deeper into this exhibit. But for now, go ahead and roll with composure. And yeah, composure. And disadvantage because of dark intrigue.
Dang it. Hold on, I have to get another dice for that then. Out of my very fancy Blakely dice box. Disadvantage. Well, that's a 10, so
Very good.
I rolled really good. That's not going to happen again for the rest of the day.
I love it. I love it. Let's take a 5-minute break. We'll come back and resolve these things. Okay, so we're going to be without Rob for about an hour. So we will do our best to frame Graves out of things and catch Rob up when the time comes. So let's pick up at the Clara Yarborough's flat. I'm going to say that Graves has gone off to go investigate some other angle. Ms. Epperly Gray, leaving you in the apartment. So what do you do?
I mean, I don't remember the procedurals or anything like that for around this time, but I mean, I think that it would be very apparent of where the body was.
We'll say yes. Yeah, we'll say yes.
So, without tape and without chalk, I would love to see where the body was found. And
yeah, they've maybe put like little folded like note cards.
Okay.
Like little tents, place them around. Like here was this, here was that.
Right. So Artemis is probably going to check out that area and then just, gingerly make her way around the cards if they're still there, just to kind of see what was marked.
Yeah, make the information move with reason.
Okay. Ooh, 10.
Very nice. I shall grab you a clue. So you're looking around. And the clue is this, just to sort of give some punch to what's happening right now with Sum and Ms. Blakely. She has one of those cream-colored cards with the address. And so she was either invited or she saw something or something, but she has one. With the gold emboss, all that. That's your clue. Note that down.
Yep. She'll definitely pocket that. Not that I believe that there's like intense security around here, but she will also check around the doors and the windows.
Yeah.
And,
we'll come back to it.
Yeah.
So the dapper boy is most impressed, Sum, and he says, "As you can see, good sir," as he steps over a minion, "it's very hard to get good help around here. And I believe that the cream always rises to the top, even when the cream is slightly spoiled and discolored. But nevertheless, it rises to the top. Good sir, might I be able to convince you to enter my employ? I could use the assistance of someone strong like you, the services of someone willing to, well, beat someone to a bloody pulp."
That's really not what I'm trying to make a habit or a business out of.
Good sir,
Just
have you injured your
something-
arm? You keep nursing your arm, I noticed.
It requires a bit of mending. It's no bother, though.
Yes, fight through the pain. That's incredible. I love it.
He takes the hand, he grabs hold of the hand and stuffs it into a pocket, and the arm just kind of slops about loosely in the sleeve.
The boy's eyes are wide, and he says, "Well, I wonder how your enchanting friend is getting on with my employer."
That is hard to say. I should probably go check on her. That is what I am currently employed to do, I suppose.
I'll go with you. And he marches in behind. Meanwhile, Miss Blakely, I'll go ahead and give you an information move with reason as you're looking at the face. Actually, information move with composure.
Ah,
That happens very rarely, but it seems like a good opportunity.
oh, okay, thank God, it's an 8.
Very good. Let me give you a clue. So it is a human face that has been carefully attached to this wooden mannequin. And I will tell you that as you're looking at the face, what at first appears to be a red smudge of blood around the edges is in fact rouge. It's not blood at all. But that's your clue. And then
Well,
you
this is a
hear,
little ghastly.
and then you hear in the shadows behind the mannequin a woman's voice that says, "I'm afraid not all of my guests are very chatty. They're still trying to find their voices, as it were."
I take it you are the artist, the person responsible for this exhibition?
Indeed, I am. I consider myself, well, an artist, but also a scientist, an enthusiasm for the very, very bold medical art of plastic surgery, cosmetic surgery.
Cosmetic surgery, that's... What wild ideas are floating around in your brain to make this happen? This is... The faces are beautiful, the gowns, the outfits, beautiful. The rest of it is disgusting.
Well, it is a work in progress. And at this point, she steps out of the shadows. She's wearing a very long, white, close-fitting coat, hugs very close to her body with a long row of buttons down one side. She has black rubber gloves that go up to her forearm. And she's wearing a wooden mask that's entirely featureless, like what the mannequins would be if they didn't have faces on them. But this featureless wooden mask with just 2 eye holes. And she says, "It is a work in progress. Not everyone is so fortunate to be as beautiful as you, my dear."
In fact, nobody is quite that fortunate. I'm very blessed, I suppose. You clearly are embarrassed. What is with this mask?
No. Nothing of the sort. I simply like to put my patients at ease.
Well, there are no patients here, so perhaps take the mask off?
You have nothing to fear, my dear. You don't need my services. I recently performed surgery on a one Dame Margaret Teasdale. You should certainly look her up if you get the chance. She represents some of my very best work. Though in truth, I was lucky she wasn't a complete ogress when I started. Renovating a house is so much easier when the foundation is solid, you know. But regrettably, there is absolutely nothing I can offer you.
I
Although
couldn't imagine there would be.
I wonder, could I not take my art to the next level? Could I not go from the merely beautiful to the divine?
I have no idea of what you speak. You're talking nonsense.
And
Are
then,
you? Oh,
and then she raises up her rubber gloved hand, and you see she has a scalpel in it that glimmers in the dim light. And at this point, you will march in, and the dapper boy, as you see this scene across the way, the dapper boy says, "Oh, what good timing. We're about to see my employer doing what she does best."
And I'll recite a bit of poetry to try and distract and diffuse the situation.
I love it. We'll come back to this. It's good. Gotta find your poem.
Oh, I've got it ready right here.
Okay, good.
David, I love you.
Right, good. Let's cut back over to Ms. Everly Gray. Okay, Ms. Everly Gray, you still have the run of the place. So you found a clue. Good. What's next?
Yeah, again, continuing to just look at the doors and the windows, because, I mean, again, like, not thinking that the security's much around here, but even so, I mean, like, you know, how would she be able to do this, you know, for an extended period of time, or he, whatever, to be able to do this to a person. So, yeah.
Pick information, move with reason again.
Okay. This one is an 8.
Very good. And go ahead, let's get you a clue. Oh. In the doorway. You noticed it a bit when you walked in, but maybe didn't pay much mind. But now it's very obvious. Near the doorway, there is a very strong smell of perfume. Like it should have faded a long time ago. So it must have been a very large amount.
She will actually, like, get her nose a little bit closer to it. I mean, does it feel like, you know, does it feel like it's soaked into the wood of the door? I mean,
yeah, that's kind of what it seems like. Yeah, like it's in the wood. Yeah. Meanwhile, you hear downstairs, "The details, Rogers. The details are what really matter here. Anyone with half a brain can tell you this is the work of a diseased mind, but it's the details that will help us uncover who that diseased mind belongs to. Now, I am most distressed that you have not posted a constable at the door to this building. That is most upsetting. It's not the sort of work that we would tolerate in Scotland Yard, which is why Scotland Yard is taking over this matter. Now, take me to the flat, please." And you hear some clomping up the steps.
What floor am I on?
Second.
And is there a tree nearby?
Sure. If you just try to escape, yeah, you can escape.
Oh,
no
yeah.
problem. Yeah.
Out the window after she says, "Bollocks."
Very good. I love it. Let's pick up this scene at the warehouse, and that might be our day phase. All right. So what do you do, Sam?
Yeah, so I was going to recite some poetry to try and diffuse the situation, or at least distract enough that nothing bad will happen. Is that a move, or should I just do it?
Do the poetry, and then we'll do the move.
Okay. Yeah, I'm walking in on this scene, scalpel raised, as if she's about to come after Blakely's face. And the dapper boy is even suggesting that. But I recite a bit of poetry, kind of loudly for the whole room to hear. Look at her and say what you see. A beautiful woman makes it hard to breathe, but gracious wait, put a mirror to her soul, and her darkest heart too soon shall show.
I love it. Night move with presence.
All right, I'm using my poetry book for
Love it. You can
help.
I think that'll cancel out your condition. So the horror condition.
Okay.
So you'll be rolling flat dice.
All right. With, you said
Presence.
8.
Sally is listening, and she says, "Very pretty words. I myself believe that the only beauty that matters is that which is skin deep. I don't like where this is going. I would be very, very happy to meet with you both very soon. At another time. Do enjoy the rest of the exhibit." And she disappears into the darkness. That's the complication, just that she's gone away. The dapper boy walks up very close to you, and says, "There are only two choices here, good sir. You are either my ally or my enemy. Which will it be?"
I shan't be forced to play your game, little master. I have no qualms with you. So I shall be neither ally nor enemy, I suppose. Though you may call me one or the other. And I'll tousle his hair and move out of the exhibit.
He walks off as well. He leaves, scampers after his employer. What are you doing in the meantime, Miss Waitley, at the end of the scene here?
Waitley's pissed.
Very good, very good.
She fumes, looking around, just fire in her eyes, and storms off. This is not the end of this.
Indeed. I think that'll conclude the day phase. So let us go ahead and swing over into the dusk. Everything looks good. Paint the scene about Hargrave House. Let's do. Well, okay, we've done everything at this point, so let's just go back to the music room, since music was a prominent feature of the last scene. A former hunter in residence once used the music room to wrangle a spirit using the power of music. There are still subtle signs of the struggle in this room. What are they?
Not really a physical sign, but when people are in the room by themselves for a period of time, they find themselves humming a little tune, or tapping their feet to a beat, a very specific beat. And when they leave the room, they don't remember it. They know they were humming a song, but they can't remember the tune anymore.
There is a bit of physical evidence. There's the remains of pieces of a broken harpsichord and a violin that have been jumbled into a corner. And strangely enough, they're broken cleanly. Like they're not just wrecked, they're just broken cleanly into pieces.
Hanging over a fireplace in the room, almost like a weapon, on hooks, is a lute, and its strings, where they would be strummed, are crimson with dried blood. And if you get close enough to it, you can tell the chords, they never stop just thrumming with some kind of very faint vibration.
Fantastic, thank you. What would you all like to do tonight? Go around the table. Miss Blakely.
I'm going back to that warehouse.
Where their guests will be. Very good. Ms. Everly Gray?
Again, it's like if we confirm that the cream-colored card address matches, of course, what Sum and Blakely went to, then of course she'll go along, but she'll be, of course, skulking on the outside.
Sounds good. Sum?
I'd like to try and get my arm fixed and then maybe deal with this Kilbourne Abbey threat.
Indeed, indeed. A scene of
That's possible.
A vulnerable move scene of the house, getting your arm repaired might be a good way to kick off. So
Sure.
That sounds like a good plan to me.
Actually, could I do that vulnerable scene? I know it's kind of the idea is that Artemis would do it, but I think...
No, that's fine with me if you're interested.
Yeah.
What's the vice? I need a vice.
Are you going to flog it into place?
Maybe.
Just berate Sum for his harsh.
No, I think
poems.
the vice would be breaking things. I think that would be the most logical thing.
Yeah,
that's interesting. Okay, good. I like it.
Okay.
Okay, so we have our plan. That's good. Let's go ahead, or your proposed plan. We have no Janus Mass prompts that need to be resolved, so let's go ahead and introduce the unseen. Tonight's unseen is going to be... Did we do the Belfort murder last time? Can't remember. I don't think so.
The one we did last was...
No, I mean
St. Thomas.
I mean
St.
season
Thomas.
1. Did we do the Belfort murder?
No, I
Oh.
don't remember doing that in season 1.
I don't remember that either. Well, we'll do it again. Somebody just might be getting a different alternate history version of the Belfort murder. The Belfort murder. Charles and Nancy Belfort have been married for 10 years, and they absolutely despise each other. Tonight is the night when one of them will finally snap. This is in all the way to the right, row 4. Paint the scene as everyone, of course. Prompt 2 is Amanda. Prompt 3 is David. Prompt 4 is Mads. Let us take 5 and we'll come back and do the night phase. Okay, we're back. For people watching the video, we just had a very fun off-mic conversation about Sally No Face and her role in the broader universe of the Between. And I'm sad we didn't record it, but maybe David and I will talk about it on the podcast someday. All right, so let's continue on with the night phase. Oh, the Belfort murder. Everyone, as we look around the Belfort's home, how do we know their love for one another died long ago?
There's separate bedrooms and they're on opposite ends of the house.
All of the knickknacks, things that you might pick up when you travel or things that you pick up, when you're out and about town, everything is old. There's nothing new brought into this home in a long time because this isn't a home for them. It's just a house.
Charles keeps a separate room for his hobby that Nancy is not supposed to go in.
Painting miniatures.
Actually, yes. Small pewter miniatures.
So, night phase. Let's have this vulnerable moon scene with Sum and Miss Blakely. I want to see how that's going to go.
I think Blakely's just going to catch some in the house somewhere. You, creature! Sorry, some. What? I wish to speak with you.
Well, and you see, like, he's stripped down to an undershirt, and he's like holding his arm with his other hand. He's like, I'm sort of in the middle of something. But
Goodness, what did you do to your arm?
It's been like this for hours.
Oh,
I was
didn't
struck with a
notice.
pipe. Well, that's all for the better then. I was trying to keep it inconspicuous.
Well, oh, good God. Well, let's go to that infirmary or whatever that Dr. Noble had, and I suppose I can help.
And he gestures with the arm holding the arm. Lead the way.
And she does.
Meanwhile, Miss Everly Gray, as you're getting ready to go out and deal with whatever you're getting ready to go out and deal with, you hear ding, 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 ding.
She is definitely
pesky doorbell.
She's gonna be using the grappling hook and the rope again.
Are you escaping out a window to avoid answering the door?
Yes, I am. There's very few things that Artemis fears, but now she fears the ringing of the Hargrave House bell.
You can go around back and look at the front door to see who's there.
Yes.
It is a young man. I will tell you that he is he's very attractive. A lantern jaw, very fulsome eyelashes, quite a trim physique, beautifully tailored suit that he's wearing. And he rings the bell again. Ding, 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 ding.
And as she did with Lieutenant Hansford, she's going to go make a roundabout in the shadows and then end up behind him, tapping him on the shoulder. Yes.
He turns and he sees you and he says, and he's very beautiful. He's like if, I mean, obviously there were no movies at this time, but he looks like he could be a celebrity. He could be a stage actor, right? And he says, my name is Bert Broadswell. I sent a photograph here earlier this week. I was wondering if anyone here had a chance to have a look at it. Do you live here? Are you part of Hargrave House?
Yes, we had received it, and we had looked at it. I
don't
apologize.
mean to be too forward, but it is it's a bit of a cold and misty night. Do you mind if I might be allowed in?
I suppose we can pity strays. And then she proceeds to open the door and show him into the library.
As he's going in, he says, it's just that my, well, I forgot their exact relationship, hold on, or their lovers. My friend, Miss Penelope Levy, she's gone missing. And I think it has something to do with that photograph and the people who took it.
Do you have a close relationship with this woman?
With Miss Levy? Well, yes. She and I, we're both actors on the stage. I was very privileged to be the Romeo to her Juliet. Though I didn't think we would get, well, I didn't think the the tragedy would turn to real life. I just desperately want to know where she's gone.
You didn't resort to poison. You didn't get that far. So good on you. Good on you.
The reason why I'm here, the matter is most urgent.
Why?
These people that she had been hanging around with, the people who presumably took this photograph, this Society Obscura, they're having something of an open house tonight.
Really? Huh.
Yes.
An open house to do what exactly?
Well, I don't know precisely, but I thought that if you and your colleagues were interested in looking into the matter for me, well, this might be a tremendous opportunity.
I see.
I haven't been able to rouse the interest of Scotland Yard.
You wouldn't. There's concern about details, but usually the wrong ones. This open house, out of curiosity, is it a dress-up event?
Yes, costumes are certainly their bailiwick. And
Costumes or full dress?
And he says, well, I suppose it would be prudent to wear evening wear, but I have a feeling it won't stay on very long, based off what I know about the place.
Interesting. Were you planning on going to it yourself, or were you planning on just foisting it upon one of us, out of curiosity?
Oh, I would never do such a thing. In fact, perhaps you could be my date.
That is an actual consideration. I just need 5 minutes.
Granted, he says and smiles. I'm going to let this night phase linger a little bit since we have so much time. So I'm going to check back in with Sum and Miss Blakely for this move scene.
You know, I'm not much of a nursemaid. However, from my small observations of you, you don't feel much pain, do you?
Generally speaking, I do not feel sensations from my nerves.
Then we should be great. Normally, I don't make a habit of touching things that are grotesque. But I suppose I can break that taboo tonight for this situation only. Now,
Most gracious of you. He holds out the arm.
ugh, she trying not to touch it as much as she can. She starts to sort of maneuver it back into what she assumes is the right place. You know, creature, that the situation we were in today, and she's kind of shoving the arm around the shoulder socket.
Yes, I hope you won't take the poem I picked to heart. It was meant as a distraction.
Ah, so you didn't pick it on purpose?
It was meant as a distraction.
I see.
I read it in
Well,
a
I
book.
suppose.
Here, and he reaches with his other hand. This one.
Oh, I'm not one for poetry.
No, indeed, ma'am.
But I thought,
If I'm being perfectly honest, Miss Blakely, the Dapper Boy, and Sally are all should be thick as thieves in the pursuit of completely shallow interests.
I mean, not wrong. I'm not one for poetry, but this poem that you spoke of, I thought perhaps, well, generally speaking, when people refer to me, when they refer to me in my heart, they suggest that I lack one. which I suppose might be true, but the idea of, and she's still shoving the arm in a little, like trying to get it into the right spot. She's expecting like a click or something when it seems right. I suppose it just felt a very kind thing to say that I have a heart, even if it's dark and blackened.
Well, ma'am, it wasn't authored with you in mind.
How can you be sure of that?
It was written some time ago.
And?
By someone far away. Do you know, and I say the author's name.
She actually does laugh a little. Ha! Perhaps I do. Perhaps I do.
I love
well.
It. So good. As much as I'm loving the scene, I'm going to cut. It's a good scene. Let's go back to the Belfort murder. Amanda, please narrate a scene in which Charles does something to get under Nancy's skin.
Nancy has a very physical job. She works as a washerwoman and she works long hours. She usually gets home after Charles is already home. She walks in the door. Charles is already home. He's sitting in his chair, his feet up on the table, smoking a cigar and whistling. And he's whistling out of tune a song she loves, and he's destroying it. And every now and then, he looks over at her side-eyed, seeing if she notices. Oh, and she does, and she's pretending not to, but she can't help it as she's making herself something to eat in the kitchen. She's slamming down the pieces of cutlery. She is slamming down the plates, and all she could think of is taking this knife and just driving it into his whistling throat.
He had it coming, bum, bum, he had it coming.
100%, that's what I was thinking. Yeah. He's popping. Yeah.
Very good, very good. Bert Broadswell says to you, Miss Everly Gray, he says, I hope you don't think this is inappropriate for me to ask, but perhaps I could help you select something to wear for the evening.
That wouldn't be a problem at all. Please, come upstairs.
As he's walking through, he looks up and he says, my goodness, this is quite a place you live in. Is this, was this house in your family?
It resembles a house in my family.
Oh, I see. You must be old money then, hmm?
Gentry, for sure.
Well, I'm glad then you don't seem to be too put out by going on a date with a commoner.
Absolutely not. You're pleasing of appearance, and I have had cause to mingle with all ages and classes, if that's what we are speaking of.
He says, well, I mean, at the end of the day, we're just people, right?
We
Warm
are.
Bodies trying to just make our way in this world.
Yes.
He goes up to your quarters with you. And do you have formal evening clothes?
I actually do.
Okay.
There's one particular piece that she has that I will mention in a Mask of the Past.
Okay, good.
But they're all built with some surprises in them.
Okay.
So, and they're all of Grecian style per se, so maybe a little bit more showing than should for the time, but yeah, definitely elegant and useful.
Probably like columnar, I imagine, right? Like,
Yes, and like kind of like a drapey necklines and yeah.
Good. He's going through them on the racks, and he like pulls something out in a sort of like very pale, like dusty yellow. And he says, I think this would look stunning on you. Though
I'm
I
sure it would.
imagine most things do.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Would you like to do me up?
Of course. And he's undoing the back strings of your, I always imagine you wear some sort of like leather waistcoat or something, right? You know?
Pretty much.
Yeah. And then he pauses. You're turned away from him, and there's like a pause of like a good like minute or so. And you hear some like, he's definitely doing something behind you, but he's not like currently undressing you. What do you do?
Because he hasn't completely removed everything off, she still has her knife gloves on.
Good.
So she flicks her wrist and she turns the knife around so the blade, or excuse me, the point. I would suggest...
When you turn, he has taken off his own shirt and coat,
Ah.
and he's bare-chested. And you have the knife, and he says, that's quite a trick. I've seen props like that in my line of work.
I deal in the real thing.
Yes, I can tell you do. And he throws himself on your bed. Do you join him?
I thought we were going to an event.
Well, yes, I suppose. But... and he kind of like says, consider this an aperitif.
Just a question. Are you considering yourself quite lonely without your lover
I
at
miss
this
her
point?
desperately. Desperately.
I might be just a mere shade.
Oh, no. No. I wouldn't characterize it that way at all. You both have simply a different sort of light.
That's one way to put it. And so she proceeds to toss off her top and such and just goes ahead and jumps on the bed. And then she leans into his face really close and says, just a warning, I can be quite noisy.
Very good. Let's go. I'm going to revisit the scene briefly with Sum and Miss Blakely. I feel like the condition is cleared some, so you can go ahead and clear that. And it's your vice, so you get the bonus. You're going to invite the question, or you're going to find a clue?
Oh, let's have a question. I'm asking about her past.
Oh, no, it was your vice, though, breaking things.
Oh, so I invite her to ask a question.
Yeah. How about you?
Are you interested in Sum's past? Would you ask a question?
I don't know if
It could be out of
Blakely
character as
would.
well, so it doesn't have to be in character.
Yeah. Let's find a clue.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to think on questions that Blakely
Yeah.
would ask some.
You get to define the clue, of course, but you can define it as you wish. So once this is all done, where do you both head?
There was a matter at the Abbey. I tried to resolve it the other night, but, well, I wasn't able to, as Artemis was waylaid. Then I think we hear some suggestive noises. It appears she is waylaid again.
This is intriguing, Miss Blakely. Miss Everly Gray getting it while you're over here dealing with the ghoul.
Yes, well, I'm sure whoever she has up there is well, certainly not somebody I would associate
You
with.
smell the most incredible men's cologne.
Blakely takes out the Casanova perfume she has on her and just sort of sprays it around a little bit in the air.
I want the night move to keep your composure. What do you afraid is going to happen if you do not?
Can I say how it's worse?
Okay. So I think that Blakely is worried that if she doesn't keep her composure, she's going to seem like she's jealous of Artemis getting, attention right now.
How's it worse, Artemis?
Her spraying her Casanova perfume makes some have feelings.
Oh no.
Oh, no.
We'll leave that up to David. That's an out of character consideration. But I will say that it's worse in that he will come down briefly before you leave the house.
Oh man, is that worse though?
Well, depends on how the scene goes, I suppose. But yeah. In any case, it will be composure. You can mark the perfume if it's unmarked.
It is unmarked. I actually haven't used anything from my
yeah, you could be dragging all kinds
my
of stuff
collection.
out of there. Yeah.
So I'm just going to read
She's
it out
got
again.
big pockets.
You have access to a collection of rare one-of-kind objects. When you take this move, select an item from the highlighted dropdown, in which I did the Casanova's perfume. If you ever use one of these items during a sensual encounter with another hunter, erase it from your personal quarters and add it to theirs unmarked. Does this count?
No, but it goes to your personal quarters anyway and can be used. And then this is a way
Perfect.
to transfer it, right? So,
Awesome. Yeah, I will mark it. So I get advantage.
you do indeed.
And this is composure?
Composure, yeah.
Oh my God. Even with advantage, it's a 6.
Oh no. We shall come back to this moment. First, we are going to visit Charles and Nancy. So, David, please narrate a scene in which Nancy humiliates Charles.
Charles is still sitting with his feet up, whistling obnoxiously on purpose, and he notices Nancy's not where he thought that she was. She's somewhere else in the house. He hears a clinking and a clamoring, and all of a sudden he realizes she's gone to his space where she's not supposed to be. And he stands up all of a sudden and rushes there to find her in the room where he has a big table that is decorated to look like a field where soldiers would make battle, tiny little pewter soldiers that he has painstakingly collected and painted for lack of other nighttime activity. And she's like pushing them around and knocking them over, this thing that has taken him so long to get just so. And she's like, oh, did the big man come to play with his toys again? All his dinky little toys. Look at them all. Look at them all falling all over. Too bad he can't get his other dinky little toy to stand up.
All right, let's go back to the night rays, hunters, scenes, Nancy. All right. At the top of the stairs is Bert Broadswell. He is wearing a long silk dressing gown, presumably belonging to Miss Everly Gray, and nothing else. When he comes down, he isn't expecting to see you down there, the two of you, and the dressing gown has come undone, and he says, oh, excuse me, seems I've come undone. And he like barely closes it up, right? Like there's still like a lot to be seen between chest and pelvis area. He's stunning, Miss Blakely. I will ask you this question, some given what you are, your feelings about yourself, and how people treat you literally every moment. What is it like to see this man who like was manufactured in a lab, to like, in terms of like, if you had to like say, look up in the dictionary, a beautiful man, this is him, right? Yeah.
Well, I think I'm used to it because I'm always around Blakely at Hargrave House. So I just like give it half of a glance and I'm like, I was a tad bit undone myself.
Miss Blakely, he's coming down and he says, and he sees you. He kind of sees you first, some, and he's just sort of looks away. But then he sees you and says, oh, hello.
Ah, and hello to you, good sir. What brings you by this late in the evening?
Oh, Ms.
Ah, yes, well,
And you are Ms.
Blakely. And she
Blakely?
gives a very pretty curtsy.
He says, well, Blakely, Ms. Blakely, your friend and I were just going over some notes. I sent the picture of Ms. Levy, the actress.
Ah, yes, that is
He helps
quite
himself.
the...
He helps himself to like scotch on a bar cart.
Mhm. That is quite the intriguing case, and she kind of sidles up close to him and holds out a glass for him to pour her a drink too.
He does.
And some tries to be like, but if you would excuse us, Miss Blakely and I had to depart to exorcise a demon. That's not poetry. I wasn't trying to be clever.
He turns to you, son, and he says, are you, by chance, are you all in the theater? You are a remarkable example of stage makeup, friend.
Too kind, I'm sure. And I give that terrible smile.
He says, do you mind if and he reaches out to your face to like touch your face stage makeup and prosthetics. And he's like touching,
stop him.
He's touching your like rubbery skin, and he says, oh yes, what they're doing with the masks these days is incredible. Absolutely incredible. I mean, you are a horror. If I saw you on the street not realizing you were some sort of performer, I would certainly turn the other way.
Yes, well, he is very interesting, I'm sure. And Blakely puts her hand very gently on the bare chest of this young man. Now, you must be in the theater, clearly. Somebody...
At this point, at the top of the stairs, Ms. Everly Gray, you will see the moment when Miss Blakely puts her hand on Bert's bare chest. What are you doing?
She's wearing his shirt and his jacket. And really, nothing else. Although, underneath his jacket and shirt, she still has her gloves. And if I see her with her hand on his chest, warning shot.
Oh, you're gonna throw something at her?
Oh, yes, of course.
What, a knife or something?
Knife, yeah.
I feel like it kind of just whizzes between them too.
It like sticks in a piece of wood, yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
He looks up and says, Ms.
That is Miss Everly Gray.
Ms. Everly Gray is
Do be
very
careful,
theatrical.
my dear.
It's almost like a circus.
Huh.
Knife throwers, sideshow freaks, dazzling beauties.
Oh, admit it, you're impressed, Bert.
He says, yes, I am. He says, you have, well, this has turned out to be a very, very interesting evening indeed. Perhaps the three of us could go back to Ms. Everly Gray's room and continue this conversation there.
Flattered by the invitation as I am. I did have a demon to deal with. That's not a metaphor.
That's the cut. That's the cut. Let's go to the Belfort.
Oh, God.
Madge.
Oh my God!
Wow. Okay.
Come on! You had to admit
That was great. It was so good. Yeah, it was so good. It was
That was so beautiful.
It's very good.
Damn you! Oh God.
Mads, which of the two can't take it any longer? Describe them murdering the other one. Are they happy at the end?
Charles takes it very, very personally. The knocking over of his soldiers and just all the work he's put in. And after all the years that they have spent together and it has culminated into this, he's at his barest thread. And him being humiliated with the knocking of his toys and the size of his piece. Yes, that evening, he decides to take a visit to her room, her bedroom. He has not done this in a very, very long time. And he catches her in her sleep. And with his toys, which he had some of the figurines that weren't quite, he had melted down and then made a rudimentary weapon and decided to stick it to her on behalf of his hobby and stab her in her bed, in her sleep. And all the while, he is grinning because he feels he's now free of humiliation and will be at peace. But after he stabs her multiple times and sees her face, her eyes flutter open, looking at him and possibly not even seeing him by the time he's done, he realizes that now he has nothing driving him. He doesn't have his constant companion to be his opposite and his enemy and his former friend and wife. So he stares into her open eyes and actually starts to cry.
So, picking up with this little scene, despite Sum's excellent joke, of course, Bert intends for Beryl and Artemis and himself to go up to the room together. Do you go?
She was going to say, before we were so hilariously interrupted, Artemis was going to say, I actually don't mind if Blakely doesn't mind sharing. But I have a suspicion that's not necessarily in her vocabulary.
Oh, my dear, I can share when I want to. However, I have important matters to deal with. Mr. I'm sorry, what was your name again?
And he like takes your hand and guides it through the opening of the dressing gown, and he says, what could be more important than this?
Well, you see, I'm not interested in sloppy seconds.
And he smiles and says, suit yourself.
I will. I always do. Some, shall we?
Certainly.
Be careful of
hold my
that
arm
one,
out.
mister. She is quite the jealous type.
And he smiles and he goes back upstairs towards Miss Everly Grey. Miss Everly Grey, what do you do?
I will look at him very appreciatively because he was fun and beautiful to look at. And I'll say, just so you know, that warning shot wasn't for you. It was something I needed to return to Blakely from a previous encounter. So,
He says, I took no offense. I, in fact, was rather intrigued and excited by your marksmanship.
thank you. I think, though, we should probably go and at least get something productive out of this night. Not that I'm saying that you weren't, but it would be helpful to at least make a show of looking into the matter, because you do have a lover missing.
He's like, yes, poor Penelope. We should get back to that, shouldn't we?
We should. We should.
And then he kind of like throws himself into your bed again and says, but the night has already gone so long. The open house probably isn't even going anymore. And at this point, you will notice among his things, which have been folded and set aside on a nearby table, he has, sticking out of his pocket, one of those cream-colored cards with the gold lettering. Down below, the two of you hear a voice in the shadows of the foyer. Two very uncommon beauties upstairs, that is. I came here with one target in mind, but now I have so many intriguing possibilities.
Blakely is going to take the knife out of the wood next to her and throw it as hard as she can in the direction where the sound came from. She probably is not going to hit anybody because she is not a knife thrower, but the intent is there.
Sally walks out of the darkness, goes over to the front door, and she says, the exhibit is always open. Come visit anytime.
Oh, we will.
She leaves. Just a little wrap up of the scene here, or on our lingering night phase? What's everyone doing just here at the end?
I have an idea, but I think it might be limiting in what happens next in the game. Remember what Blakely did to Miss Head's house? What a shame if the same thing were to happen to a warehouse over on the side of the
Indeed.
city. What a
I'm okay with the night phase wrapping up with you standing in front of a conflagration.
Perfect.
I think that'd be great.
Yeah, I think that is how Blakely's scene goes out. She's standing and watching this warehouse up in flames. It's probably screams.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. How does your night phase wrap?
Standing outside of an abbey, waiting for somebody else to show up.
Indeed. I think Mother Superior Eudora be standing next to you. She says, "Poor lost child, always here, always looking for something, searching for something. Have you perhaps considered that you might be able to find companionship in God?"
I consider such a thing hourly.
Well, would you like to come inside and pray with me then?
I can come inside again, though it's always so quiet for me.
And Ms. Everly Gray?
Now, basically, like wrapping up night phase is just like, not a continuation of anything.
Yeah, no
that's
action,
gonna
just
happen.
a little denouement.
She actually will call attention to this and take it and then flick it on his chest. So you seem to have an interest in other things and other exhibits, not just wet plate. Were you planning on visiting? Or possibly thinking about utilizing some service?
He says, he smiles and says, "In my line of work, you always have to be thinking about the ravages of time."
Beauty is fleeting.
He says, "Not if I have anything to say about it."
Oh, such a shame. I was hoping there was a character behind that wonderful facade.
And we shall end the night phase there. Let's take a quick 3-minute break and we'll come back and do the dawn and stars and wishes. Okay, we're at the dawn phase, so let's go ahead and dive into that. No threats were resolved. Let's do dawn questions. Miss Blake, no one, we did not answer a capital Q question or resolve a threat, so no one's getting that. However, well, Miss Blakely, you don't even need XP anymore, but I am curious, did you get an echo in the night?
Not really. No.
Very good. I kind of thought you were at one point when you
I was trying to suggest, to get the knife stuff in there, to sort of get suggestions of, but it was more to help build other people, give opportunities for other people.
Yeah, I thought that was, that's what I picked up on. Did you create an ornate over the top erotic experience for someone else's pleasure? No, I feel like you walked around in one though. Yeah. Yeah. Intriguing indeed.
It was right there for you.
Yeah.
Some echo the night?
I don't think so.
Were you extra gentle with someone or something because you know how strong you are?
I tried to show gentleness in like taking the card from Blakely at the beginning, but yeah, that's about it.
Did you? That one feels a little weird. Did you openly walk among people during the day? Yes, you did do that. We got the spirit of that one today for sure, with the many people commenting on your appearance and how horrifying.
And I played dice with normal people, so
that's true. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that one for sure. Let's go to Miss Everly Gray. Echo of the Night.
Aside from flinging some knives around, I mean, like, you know, I didn't really aim for one this time.
I picked up on this. To me, like, I don't know if you all were intending it or not, but I really felt like the sort of like just the sexual encounter with Bert, like almost like was echoing like the sort of like the stuff with Charles and Nancy, like Charles, like their whole, like, you know, there was like stuff about like,
I kind of felt like the antagonism between Charles and Nancy was not reflected in terms of like mirrored.
It was almost like an inversion.
Yeah.
It felt like very inverted. Because when you said something to Bert, like at the end there, something about like, what'd you say? It was something like finding your target. I don't know. Anyway, maybe we're just like dancing around it, but I felt like they felt the unseen and the hunter scenes felt very connected to me. So even if I'm not sure about the echoes of the night, but I feel like we accomplished something thematically.
All right. Well, I mean, like, you know, I'll take it only because it's like, you know, I do feel like there was like something going on, like we were trying to do thematically, and it's like
I think it was happening. I don't know if it was like super explicit, but it felt like it was happening. So I think you should take it. Did you revel in the thrill of the hunt? Yes, I think with Bert Broadswell, right? Mm-hmm. And you also did the third one. You racked up the XP of this one.
Yep.
Very good. Let's keep going. That's it. Let's go to Stars and Wishes. So,
oh goodness,
that's where we're at. Stars and Wishes. Of course, stars are things you enjoyed. Wishes are things we hope to see in the story next time. I will start today and say that for stars, I really enjoyed the whole sequence, like immediately before and during the exhibit. I thought that was fantastic. I enjoyed the scenes with Bert. That was really good. I thought that Sum was very disarming and charming in Sum's way today. Enjoyed all that. I really enjoyed seeing Blakely like start to stick up for Sum, and in Blakely's sort of Blakely way, like defend Sum. I thought that was really interesting. It was all really good. Poking around Clara's apartment was fun. With D.I. Pettigrew coming up the stairs, that was just such a between. It was peak between. I just really loved all that. It was good. It was a lot of fun. I'll think about my wishes, but those are my stars for now.
That reflects a lot of my stars. Just a lot of really fun character moments in this. Artemis jumping out the window. It was just so perfect.
Well, and really that's what Artemis did at the apartment and at Hargrave House.
Yeah,
right?
How many windows has Artemis jumped through at this point?
Yeah. And I'm just like, I also don't want to answer the door. I understand this. So I really liked that. David, your Nancy unseen was so
Oh, the unseen was great, but that prompt was particularly good. It was really good.
Awesome. That was just wonderful. I really liked that. So yeah,
I was like, Nancy, you're in danger, girl. This is it. You're in danger.
Yeah, but then I'm like, no, get her. She's terrible. Like, they're both terrible people, and I really liked that there was somebody in this session that we could hate more than Blakely, because that doesn't happen very much.
I really did think, well, I mean, amazingly enough, I mean, I actually felt like Blakely didn't do Blakely this session. I felt like, you know, she felt almost decent, which was Weird.
It was a very Blakely form of decency, right? Which I think
Yeah,
is
if
really
she's gonna,
intriguing. Yeah.
I happen to look at like, I think it's Mask of the Future for you. I mean, like, like where you actually have some like regret about like what you've done or whatever. And it's like I kind of felt like there was like a tinge of that today. Not regret about what you've done, but more of like, well, maybe, maybe I can be like this instead. And it was really interesting to see. And it was, again, like a subversion of what we probably think her normal reaction would be to some. And I think it was it was a great team up for what had happened. And again, David, stars. If I could like, do some sort of like button like that bursts stars every single time that you said a line, or you interjected in a scene, or you ended a scene, and then the unseen. I mean, like I already have count like 4 stars already, and like I'm probably missing like, 2 more or something. I mean, you are amazing playing some, and with your narrations, I you definitely pull out emotion, whether it be like, complete sadness or incredible hilarity. So don't change. Keep going, because this is what, the characterizations are what make this game incredibly fun. So stars for that. And Jason, just again, I get it. The pacing is just like much quicker this round, this season, and you are, I mean, you're just, I almost feel like we're getting whiplash, because it's like, it's just so wonderful. I mean, like, you can see it cinematically of all of the things that are happening. And even though we took it a little bit slower this session, I feel like it still had a good pace to it. Like it's still, we were into it. We were doing stuff. And yeah, I mean, like the tension, or
I was
yeah.
really happy that the like me interrupting your night phase plans, that's nothing unusual, right? But
Yeah.
I was really happy that we got like just this completely no stakes night phase, right? Like there were no stakes at all. There was really literally no danger. Nothing was happening dangerous. It was just this guy who was naturally following up on something that he was meant to follow up on, showing up and having a, just being the interruption, right? Which I thought was
Yep.
really fun. It was fun to play. Like
That was,
it would have been very easy to be like, oh, he's possessed by a demon, or oh, whatever,
Right.
whatever. But then like, yeah, but he just was like,
he was a diversion, but like not in the sense of like necessarily driven by any threat, but just he was just, oh, this is a nice change of pace, and it was still hilariously funny. Oh, Blakely, I mean, she is willing to share. It's just, no
I
harm,
thought
no
that was a
foul.
really interesting outcome. I thought for sure Blakely would join the two of you. But then I was like, well, maybe not though, because I don't think Blakely usually I think Blakely likes to be the center of attention. So that was interesting, right? It was interesting that like that was the overriding concern for Blakely, which I thought was really interesting.
I thought about it, and then I realized that if it'd been the other way around, and Blakely would have to be the one doing the inviting. That is the only way it
She would have
worked
to be
for
in
her.
control, right? I think
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah,
True.
That's exactly right.
True.
Yeah,
I mean, it just drives home the fact that it's like, this ain't Dr. Noble no more. And also, I mean, like, being fully human, I would say, compared to Blakely being supernatural. I mean, like, now you're coming up against somebody who has a pretty forceful personality of her own, and not driven by, oh shit, like, most beloved, that just attracting unwanted attention. It's just, this is the way she is, and, here you go. So that was a lot of fun. I mean, kudos, Jason, because I mean, like, just going along with it. That kind of leads a little bit into my wishes. This is weird. Okay, so I was thinking about it over the past week, and I was going to say that the next time Admiral Flagg decides he wants to call and then call upon Artemis, she's just going to make the flat out suggestion that it's like he's coming to wooing. because he's missing someone. And it's like she's going to ask him straight up, who are you missing, Admiral Flagg? Who do you miss in your life?
I think my stars are, I loved how Amanda handled the kind of challenge of Blakely working with some, which was a role-playing challenge based on what we know about the character, but like you came up with really good reasons and ways that that team up could still work, and it was a really cool and fun team up. That was great. I love Artemis doing her Artemis thing of jumping out windows and investigating and tossing knives. Like all that was so good. And like kind of seeing this different younger self. Everybody else in Hargrave House is like usually, I don't know, more restrained in things, but it feels like Artemis isn't, and that's really neat. So that's really fun to see you take that on. It's also very different than the Dr. Noble that you were playing before. So that's a nice, like, cool way that you're like, it's like, oh man, this is so very different. It's great.
It's a lot of fun too. And again, for those of us that are new characters, I mean, I think it's so important that there is a distinction. I mean, and then, you know, David, you playing some like so different from Sure Shot. But yet, I mean, again, in your own way, you were still pulling on your player instincts and like coming up with these amazing lines. So I'm not going to stop giving stars for that. Just not. I mean, it's just continually happening, and I love it. We love it. We will riot if something bad happens to some. I don't care.
Rob is here, and Rob, we're in Stars and Wishes, and I will tell you that like you absolutely must go watch the rest of the video. When
I'm kind of like, yeah,
like you absolutely must. It is.
Be prepared to bust a gut.
Probably one of the funniest things that's ever happened in this game. Happened. It was so good.
I mean,
you didn't miss much in terms of action. It was a very light kind of thing. So you didn't miss any.
We didn't resolve anything.
You didn't miss any story.
We didn't resolve anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
It was purely just hijinks at the house. But okay, good. So yeah, I love it. I wishes for me. I love where this is all going, and obviously I want to get Graves back in there. That's a wish, and kind of get Graves caught up. I want to, well, next week there won't be a new threat because you still have 3 active threats. So and yeah, I just more of this, please. This was really good. It just felt so, yeah.
I'll say, yeah, my other star was for seeing Sally come into play.
Yes.
and just linger in Hargrave House, just in the doorway, like
just shows up. Why not?
This is nice. So much beauty and eroticism happening here. I'm drawn like a moth to a flame to come carve it all up.
Right.
But I don't. I just voyeur. That felt good.
It feels like a really interesting callback to season 1, part 5, I think, when Hazel Beaumont, like, you know, got in our business. I mean, it's just like very similar.
This is an interesting thing about the game. So when I designed the game, I made the Explorer. I intend for the threats to come into Hargrave House, right? Like that is something they do, and especially if they're being ignored. And that's where the presence of the Explorer has such a profound impact on the game, because they are the only character who can prevent that, right? Like the Explorer can straight up prevent that from happening and keep the danger on the outside, which is something you may or may not want to engage with, right? But it's a thing. And the Explorer can also ensure that you get more done in a night phase. The Explorer has the power to like almost like shape and guide so much of the campaign, the story, which is intentional, right? And so not having the Explorer, it's really intriguing. It's very much like last season when we didn't have the vessel, right? Like not having the vessel makes a really different experience for Hargrave House, right? And I always love that. I love seeing the different combinations, how they play out, right? Because a campaign with an explorer is really different from one without, right? A campaign without a vessel is really different from one that does have a vessel, right? So, and so forth. It's good. It's fun stuff.
Yeah, working on season 4 stuff and really getting into it and thinking about it as I was having to fiddle with different bits of it so much yesterday. I'm just like, my wish, my pie in the sky kind of absurd wish is like season 3, the orphan has done his thing, has managed to check all 4 boxes, and we find out what happens when he tries to enter the family of Pope. But then and then like Blakely's probably resolved at that point, but then somebody takes the Martian and somebody takes the Explorer, and Jasad subsumes Admiral Flagg, and like the Explorer and the Martian are like fighting over who's really the arch nemesis of Jasad.
Right. Yeah. I love this is a tangent, not related to Stars and Wishes at all, but I love the implication of Jasad existing in the game. The implication is that the Explorer has been to space, right? Like that is so good. And I hope that Playgroups put that together,
That was actually going to be my other option if I didn't play the vessel this season. I was thinking of playing an Explorer, but kind of leaning on a whole John Carter thing where the place he'd explored was Mars, and like if
there's a future season where we do Jasad, like Explorer plus Jasad sounds like such a cool combination. I've never play tested that, but it seems like it would be really cool and intriguing. And I think it's really fun. And then you have the Martian as well, which has such a like intimate connection to Jasad, right? Even though they don't know it. That's the other funny thing too, right? Like the fated thing of the Martian is Jasad, right? But in the campaign with the Explorer is the nemesis of Jasad, right? So you have this like, that's an interesting tension, David, and I think that would be really intriguing too. Another thing that David and I talked about, because David and I are kind of on the back publishing end of it, we talked a lot about like, okay, so does the Explorer have multiple nemesis if they go through different seasons? And the answer is yes, right? Like their greatest enemy is always whoever the mastermind is, right? And that kind of feeds into the pulp nature of the character, right? Like they, like, the last time it might have been Theodora, but no, my true nemesis is Admiral Flagg, right? Like that's their thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like going back to Penny Dreadful, so Malcolm Murray goes from Dracula, pseudo Dracula, whatever it's supposed to be in season 1, and then Mrs. Paul in season 2, and I haven't actually started season 3 yet. I'm like 2 episodes left of season 2, but yeah, these different threats come to the fore.
And it's and what it's like the nature of the character to like center themselves, right, and make themselves the protagonist of their story, right, which I think is always really great.
And could you imagine like Jasad's the mastermind, the Martian's in play, the Explorer's in play, the Undeniables in play, and then some other character who is marked most beloved is in play.
It's just all power, all chaos and power.
Oh,
like a vessel marked most beloved. That's the 4th. Yeah. That would be quite the different, like that'd be a high powered.
Like if there's such a thing as like a level 20 high level campaign in between, that feels
it's
like
the epic campaign.
Right? The epic box, right? Exactly.
Yeah, that would be nuts.
Can I ask a mechanics question?
And the rivalry over the attention of the mastermind.
Right. Yeah. Go ahead.
I just have a mechanics question, actually. Please remind me, if we hit a mid result, we can use a mask to bump it up to 10 plus?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You can bump a 10 up to
12. You get a 10 plus, you can bump it up to 12, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
It just bumps it up one tier.
But it's just one tier. Yeah.
One tier. Yeah.
Okay.
And you can only do it once. You can't use 2 masks to go
no. I wasn't thinking that insane. I mean, I'm just like trying to think because, I mean.
Sometimes you want to, right? Like sometimes like it's really advantageous to like to just go ahead and get the best possible result,
Yeah, I mean, like, because that's what I'm thinking for for something in the future. I mean, like, granted, we had more hijinks this time, so it wasn't like we could really, like,
we
really
keep saying
test our mettle.
hijinks like we totally lost tone. We did not. Like, it was totally
No. I mean, it was well within.
Yeah,
But
it's pretty amazing. All right.
Yeah.
Any other stars and wishes before we go?
Just on that subject, I think the big star for me from the bit of the session I did catch was David just leaning into the fail with Son getting into that fight with the minions of Sally No Face. That was fun. You know,
it was really good.
Much as I would have liked to see a mask, that was a scene we would have then missed. So that was really cool.
Absolutely. I do want to check in with Crawford Graves just to see if you would have gotten any XP from the little bit that we did have.
Oh yeah, sure,
Mr. Graves. Obviously, you couldn't do an echo in the night, and we didn't. And no question was answered, no threat was resolved.
No.
But did you have a face-to-face encounter with a dark entity?
No.
Don't think so. Did you make love to a human in order to forget the darkness?
I did.
Remind me who's... Oh, yeah.
Miss Everly Gray.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah, she was getting it all session. That
moment has is really interesting context for what happens in the rest of the session. So, but yes, you do get an experience point for that. So good job. All right. Any other stars and wishes?
I really want us to solve this Abby situation.
That was if I
got
had
one more session before Admiral Flag makes that the servant.
If I hadn't missed the back half of the session, that was like totally my goal with Grace this time.
You probably would have gotten stuck overnight in Hargrave House with the rest of us.
You gotta get this up on YouTube ASAP so I can watch it.
Yeah. We will. I'll prioritize it.
I almost hope that the Abbey gets resolved and Some isn't there as a part of it. Like
the irony would be
just
really
the way.
Yeah.
Like he shows up at the end and it's already done. He's like,
they didn't wait on you. It just like did it. Good. Okay.
But it's just like it's a comedy of timing, because it's almost like, you know, he doesn't wait and then we get waylaid, and then, you know, we don't wait and then he gets waylaid, and it's just damn dark.
Yeah. It's good. Okay, with all that said, let's have a little stinger. Bert Broadswell. Broad-shouldered, chiseled, lantern jaw. He gets up from his bed, his own bed, and walks into the bathroom, water closet, whatever. Walks into the bathroom. There's a mirror. And he says to the mirror, smiles and says, the gods weep when they look at you, Bert Broadswell, because they know they cannot match your beauty. And then he looks close into the mirror and he sees a little trickle of blood going down his neck. Kind of looks curiously at that and plays with it. And then he looks and he sees a line of blood around his jaw, around his chin, up to his ears, his forehead. He's like, what in the world? And then he begins to touch, and his face begins to slough off. It peels off, falls down, and the scene ends with muscle, skeletal, eyeballs popped, Bert Broadswell screaming. I will see you all next week.